Okay, I don't know if you're already, if everybody is there, but I will just start talking a little bit anyway. As I said, sorry if there is some errors regarding shitty hosting, so that could be an issue. Also, yeah, if it doesn't work correctly yet, it's because we didn't do like any of the updated configs, so you have to refresh in order to get something. So if you click like twice, there could be some error. So let's try to improve it. I mentioned to you there was something called configs. I briefly mentioned there is something called range add. So this is how we tell Relay how to add. Oh, I'm still frozen. This is how we tell Relay how to add new items to the store. So what it takes is a parent ID. This is the Relay internal ID of the parent node. And note that if this parent is on the root, then this ID is equal to client:root. We will see it later. And it takes a connection info, which is an array of objects taking a key, which is the same key as we have defined in our connection directive here. So this is the one we're going to use after. Takes an optional argument filters. I have defined filters here, but there is really no filters. Just know that there is an option to have filters, and you need to specify it if your connection has filters. And there is the possibility of or it's mandatory to have the range behavior. It supports 3 types. It's append, which will add the newly added edge to the end of the list, or prepend, which will add it to the start of the list, or ignore, which will ignore it. Everything else will most likely throw an error. And it's the edge name, which is the name of the field in the response that represents the new edge. So you also have to tell Relay where in the response is the data I'm supposed to update the store with. So let's have a look and start to see how we can use this config to tell Relay how to update it. So I will go to my mutation, and I will define something called configs. So remember, it was an array, and it takes an array of objects. The first thing I have to specify, let's see where it is. Well, the first thing I have to specify is the type. And what we're doing now is the range add. And I need to specify the parent ID. And this is, if you see here where the connection is defined, it's on the root query. So this is just, as I mentioned before, client semicolon root. If the connection was further down in the graph, like say I had a user which has a relay ID and that user has friends which is a connection, then I would specify the ID of the user. But in this case it's on the client root. The next is the connection info, which also is an array object. It takes the key and we remember that's the key from the favorites list, so there's a component called favorites list here. We can copy it and paste it here. The next thing we need to specify is the range behavior. And for this case, let's go ahead and use prepend. So you add it to the start of the list. Next thing I need to specify is the edge name, which I don't know yet because I don't have it in my response. But if I see here, I can return something called TV show, which is what we are looking for. So there should be TV show. And here's where I specify the data I want returned from the server. I have a convenient fragment here I can use called the favorites item because we are adding it to the favorites list. So I will go ahead and copy this fragment and just add it here to my favorite, to my mutation. Okay, so now when you see we have an edge here, this is the edge name. So this is the response from the server, which will contain the data we need to add to our connection. So I can go ahead and save it, and hopefully I have no errors in the relay compiler, no errors here. So in theory now I should be able to search for Breaking Bad. I should be able to click on it and it is appended to my list.
Should it be on the end?
I specified, the range behavior prepend, so it will be added to start. If I change this to append, it will be added to the end. Like for this example, it's easier to see if I add it on the top, since I don't have to scroll down to show it, so there it is. So I will give you some minutes to finish this configuration.